So you guys just pulled Enoki and you guys are looking to learn how to play Enoki. Well, in my opinion, Enoki is the most difficult character in the game to play because she's very unforgiving with her heat gauge. So if you guys are looking for this to be your very first character, I recommend trying out a different character to start with. But if you guys are looking for a challenge and want to play a difficult character, this is going to be the character for you. Now, if you tried playing her on your own before watching this guide, you probably are struggling to build your bar. I guarantee you the reason why you're struggling to build that bar is because you're playing her wrong, and I'll go ahead and explain exactly what the problem is. Now, let's go ahead and go over what the heat gauge is to begin with right here. Now, the heat gauge has a maximum of 40 stacks right here. In order to get these 40 stacks, you're going to need to use your primary attack, your secondary attack, and your counter attack. Now, a big mistake that you might not know is with your primary attack, you don't get the full stacks unless you finish the whole 4 stages of your hit. So as you see right here, you have the first stage, the second, the third, and the fourth. What does that mean? Every swing of your sword is a different stage. So you got to get to that fourth stage in order to actually build the heat. As you see right here, the first one, second one, third one, and only the fourth one. When you finish the final combo hit, will you get the heat. So you get 12 heat from doing the primary attack, and your secondary attack, you gain 14 stacks. And then if you can get a counter attack as well, that will give you 12 stacks. Now, what is the goal here? The goal is for you to try to get up to your strategy skill right here. In order to use your strategy skill, you need at least 32 stacks of heat. So what does that mean? That means we're going to need to land a secondary for 14, and then a primary, and then either a counter attack or a secondary attack before we can even use one strategy skill. Now that sounds pretty simple, but in practice it's a lot more difficult because over time the heat will drop down if you're not constantly doing damage, and if you get hit a single time, you lose all of that heat. Now, the big thing that a lot of people miss when they're playing Enoki is this part over here. It says when executing an action that can accumulate heat, if the action is the same as the previous action executed, the heat will be decreased. So what does that mean? If we go back to the thing right here, the secondary attack normally gives us the stacks of 14 per heat. This is the fastest way for you to build up heat other than counterattack, of course. So you normally would be spamming secondary attack as much as possible to build up heat if it wasn't for that restriction. So the correct way to be playing Enoki is to use your secondary attack to close the gap. Let the full rotation of your secondary attack play out. If you dodge out earlier, you're not going to get the full rotation. But if you're going to get hit, then it's obviously better to dodge out of that. So go ahead, full rotation on secondary attack, full rotation on primary attack, and then full rotation of secondary attack. The goal with Enoki is to be alternating her secondary attacks and her primary attacks. Now, where this gets a little bit more difficult is throwing in a counter attack. If you throw in a counter attack, that breaks up your repetitiveness, right? So you can go secondary attack, counter attack, secondary attack, and then get your strategy skill out right away. If you don't get that counter attack, then that's when you go for your primary attack. So that's going to be your gameplay loop with her, is try to build up that heat to try to get out this strategy skill, because this skill just does a ton of damage. It's basically like an ult on its own. Now, what kind of team composition are we looking for with Enoki? As you see right here, her breakability is actually not that good. So I like to pair her with the main character right here, Yo, and then some sort of support character. I really think this character, Semba right here, is really broken, so I use her every single time. She heals, it does massive damage. Her break is pretty weak as well, so I'm not going to get too many ults off, but that's fine. I'm not really even looking for an ult anyway. So that's going to be the team that we're going to be running. For the potentials, I'm using Fighting Instincts. I'm not worrying about passive skill expansion right here because it does increase your ultimate skill damage multiplier, but we're not really going for ultimates. So I recommend avoiding this unless you're using a break build where you're going to be spamming your ultimate. I would avoid this ability right here because it lowers the heat you gain by quite a bit. Now, for your Patamons, just go ahead and go for whatever best attack set that you have. And if you have some dupes, one is pretty nice because it lets you get 4 stacks of heat on chain skills. And that's pretty much it. That's what you're going to be doing when you're playing this character. Now let's go ahead and showcase a little bit of gameplay by clearing a quick little raid right here, or dungeon, whatever they're called again. We'll go ahead and loot. So what you want to try to do when you're playing with her is try to pull as many enemies at once, because you want to have longer fights. That way, when you build up that bar, it'll stay built up. Now, we'll go ahead and start with this. These characters are pretty much uncounterable for the most part. So you do this, you're going to try to get in there. As you see, that one didn't give any heat because he didn't actually land a counter. So we have to go through this whole entire combo in order to gain the heat there. We did it. So then we're going to swap over to your strat or your secondary skill. As you see, once you get that upper slice right there, that's when you can actually swap. So we go 1, 2, 3, and then 4. That gives me my heat. We spin. We have to counter there. And then since we countered, we can go back into our spin and build up all of that heat. We got a little chain attack right here, so we'll use that. As you see, my bar has turned blue. That means I can now use my strategy skill. And look at that. Boom! One-shots the enemy. It just does so much damage. Now we're going to go ahead and use our secondary skill. Now that we used our secondary skill, we have to now go into our primary skill. And then the cool thing is, if you actually miss your attack, it's okay. You're still going to gain that heat. So even if the enemy goes out of the way, so let me see if I can show you right here. Even if the enemy's out of range, I'm going to try to get out of the way over here. Let's go way over here. So even if the enemy's out of range of you, you can build up your heat just like this. So if you're fighting a boss that's invulnerable and just wasting time, you could still build up your heat. Now again, we're going to go primary, primary, or secondary, primary, secondary. Now let's go ahead and try to get to the boss. I'll skip looting some of these things to try to showcase this a little bit faster. We'll go ahead and run over here, grab this guy. Oh, sorry, I got to get these luxury chests. These luxury chests are too good to pass up. All right, we got 2 more little minions right here. Try to get them close together so that way we can find them both at once. And I'm going to showcase the problem with playing her the wrong way. If you just dodge like this and spam your secondary skill, you gain a little bit of heat. So you might think you're doing a good job, right? But look, now that I've used this skill many times, if I use it again, it's not going to give me any heat from there. So you are able to spam it quite a bit, but it doesn't give you nearly as much heat as if you were to do something else, which is your primary attack to break it up. So we're going to go ahead and primary attack to reset the thing. But as you see right there, even through not playing her completely optimal, we can still gain heat. So if you need to use your secondary attack just to close the gap, that's better than doing nothing with her. So here we are fighting one of the bosses. We're going to go ahead and try to just focus him down. We go with the secondary, and now we'll go ahead and swap to the primary. If he hits me right here, we have to try to counter that. They buffed her recently as well, if you guys didn't know, so now you can cancel out of your secondary skill. This makes her a lot easier to play. So again, you just counter, and as you see, we're just doing insane damage. The hard part with her, again, is landing those counters. If you miss one of those counters, you're going to lose your heat. And losing your heat means you lose a ton of damage. Now, if we just keep this up, we can go ahead and constantly spam our skills. As you see right here, we finally got hit. So we're going to go ahead and try to rebuild up our heat. That's all we're going to be trying to do here. And they're already dead. So once they're dead, we go on to the next one. I don't know if you can even counter that one, so I tried to dodge away. Unfortunately, got hit there. Since we used the secondary last time, we're going to swap over to a primary right here. Hit him, dodge out of the way of this. Now we secondary skill, big damage, jump out of the way. And then again, we're going to go ahead and close the gap here. So we're going to secondary again. But you see, we didn't gain full heat there because it's 2 in a row. So we're going to go ahead and swap over to primaries. Now we got our blue, so we're going to go and blast them for big damage. And now I hit him with the secondary. And then let's just end it with a nice looking... Oh, unfortunately, I just barely lost my ult there. But yeah, you guys get the idea now. That's the way you build up your bar right there. Enoki is very good character to play. Very difficult if you're playing against something that you're not good at dodging, such as a boss that you're not very confident with avoiding all their attacks. Maybe don't use her for that. Use her for something that you know you're not going to get hit too much on. Otherwise, you're never going to build that heat gauge. Anyways, that's the way you guys play Enoki. Hopefully you guys learned something, and hopefully you guys are enjoying this game. If you are, Feel free to hit me with a follow and a like. Let me know which character you guys are interested in learning next, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.